And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pumpkin Copter Cast, a good old podcast about video games. Today, today I get to speak. I don't know how to say it. I just remembered.
Oh, sorry. I think I'm having some internet issues. Give me,
Joy.
yeah, fun. Okay. I think I can hear you better now. Go ahead.
Just pretend all the negative 8 people watching at home. Just pretend that didn't happen. So yeah, I'm speaking with Joshua of Super Crome, one of the games featured this year's Boston Fig Fest. So yeah, we'll start with the standard, who you are and what you do question.
Cool. Hey, I'm Josh. I'm working on Super Chrome. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm just an indie developer. It's just me right now for the bulk of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a part-time thing. So, I have like a full-time programming job elsewhere, and this is just kind of like a side gig for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been tough doing that, but everyone has to start somewhere.
So when did you start working on Super Chrome?
Uh, it'll be a year next month, so November of 2017.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been
So,
a fun ride.
so what made you decide to start getting into game design on the side?
Well, I've always had an interest in making games.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people that are really heavily into games just kind of naturally progress that way, I guess. But yeah, I kind of had always been trying to be like a developer, like a game developer since I was younger. I always had plans like, oh, when I get older, like I'm gonna like that's gonna be me as an adult when I'm growing up and gonna make games. Um, Easier said than done though. So I figured, I'll do it on the side for now because I can afford to. I've got a pretty steady job, which is great. So it kind of gives me the opportunity to just work on my own stuff on the side. And then in the meantime, I can either look for a game development job or just keep doing what I'm doing because this is fine right now. Yeah, I mean mainly it was just like this is a hobby I like and enjoy, so I'm just gonna keep doing it. And then Super Chrome is the first game that really stuck with a project for this long.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I'll do like small game jams, that are either like a week long or like a month long or something, but never like anything. Like this is coming up on a year, and that's wild. It's never been that long before.
So yeah, so let's start. Let's get into the meat of it. What type of game is Super Chrome?
So Super Chrome is like a bullet hell-esque retro shooter. So I say esque because it's not quite as intense as a game like Ikaruga or the Toho games, but it's still pretty intense where there's going to be like tons of bullets on the screen. So I named it, my brother actually coined the term bullet purgatory, and I thought that was pretty funny. So we just stuck with it.
Hmm.
Um, but really, it's just like I wanted to combine old school shooters like, I don't know, Gradius and like Galaga and like really old school and like retro shooters with like modern day bullet hell games. So that was the idea. Um, so one thing you'll notice in the game, I don't know if I mean there's not a lot of gameplay footage online right now, but when it comes out, one thing that I'm really trying to focus in on is that like the enemies are more Galaga style. They're like swoop in and like try to hit you and then like fly back up and then you can just like shoot them or whatever. Whereas like the bosses are more like, all right, this is like a bullet hell, like so many bullets on the screen with like very unique but like repetitive patterns that you can, learn and like, learn and grow to get better at, I guess. I don't know. That's like the one thing that bullet hells really got me with is just that it's like a learning experience almost. You keep trying until you eventually get it.
And when Super Chrome is, fully released and set out there in the world, Is it going to be like a sort of endless type of shooting game, or is it going to have like a campaign portion with a set amount of levels and structure?
Yeah, so that's the dream is a story mode. Um, so I don't know if you got a chance to play it. I don't remember. Boston Fig was pretty wild. Um, but what I had there was like a arcade mode essentially. So
Hmm.
it's just an endless, waves and waves and waves of enemies, and then like random bosses thrown in there, and you're just trying to get the best score you can possibly get. Um, and that's great for the arcade mode, and that's what I want to release soon. But the dream is to have like a story mode of like 6 to 7 levels, all with bosses in almost like a Mega Man-y type structure where you'll defeat a boss and then you'll get their weapon and then you can use that in later levels. Um, but that's all like I'm just like I don't have any levels fully developed yet. I'm just kind of like designing them still.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's the dream.
Mm, okay, and when it is released, well, like you mentioned the arcade mode, the other modes, and the fully released version of the game.
Yeah, sorry, I lost you for a bit there. What was that?
Uh, yeah, you mentioned, and you had what was basically the arcade mode at
Yeah,
Boston Fig Fest. So when it's fully
right.
released, will it have something similar to that, where it's just a mode where you can mess around with all of the tools of the
Oh,
game?
yeah, yeah. So for the arcade mode, I want to integrate with the Steam leaderboard when it's out.
Oh.
Um, yeah. So then the plan is I don't remember what game it was, but there was one game I saw that had like a daily leaderboard and then like a monthly leaderboard and then an all-time leaderboard, which I think are really cool ideas. So it's kind of like you're in the competitive spirit where it's like, all right, like I'm like number one for the day, but then tomorrow it's like a fresh new leaderboard or something like that. So yeah, the arcade mode will have that kind of stuff in the full release, and it will be available um, as well as it was like Boston Fig.
Okay. And when it is released, like you briefly mentioned Steam, but ideally, would there be any other gaming platforms you'd like to put it on if you find you're safe?
Yeah, so the I really want to get on the Switch, but it's hard, especially nowadays. Everybody wants their game on the Switch. But yeah, the Switch and then PlayStation 4. I don't know if you played it, but at Boston Fig, it's played on a PlayStation 4 controller right now,
Hmm.
but it's just running off my PC. Um, yeah, this isn't really a game you can play with keyboard anyway, so it'd be ideally on a console.
Yeah. So you mentioned that Super Chrome is kind of sort of Galaga, kind of sort of bullet hellish. So did you play
Mhm.
any of those old timey shooty games back in the day, or was it, or did you just hear about those types of games from word of mouth and decide to make a go out of something like that?
So I've played a decent share of those kinds of games. Galaga especially, I really like Galaga a lot.
Hmm.
Uh, at my work, we actually have an arcade machine on the second floor, so sometimes during breaks we'll just go down there and compete for like high scores in Galaga. And they also have like I think it's Galaga 89 or something, or 88 maybe. It's like a newer version of Galaga essentially. Um, but yeah, so I mean I've played my fair share of those kinds of games. As far as like bullet hells go, I'm not the best at them. uh, yeah, I recently the one I've been playing the most of is Enter the Gungeon, and I've just been like, I'm so bad at it. It's definitely gotten a lot easier with the latest update, but I'm just still trash, so I don't know if I'll ever beat it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting making a game that you're not necessarily great at per se, you know. Yeah. So a lot of those, like, I'm more leaning towards like the retro NES, Super NES, like shooters. You know what I mean? Like a lot of
Hmm.
the like side-scrolling shooters, and like games like Contra. Like I know that's not like a space shooter, but that's like probably one of my favorite. Like Super C is my favorite NES game, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I also am pretty bad at these types of bullet hell, top-down spaceship shooter types of games. The most recent one I've actually beaten was quite a few months ago was Jamestown, which is basically what if
Oh,
colonial times but Mars.
yeah, I played that as well. Yeah, that game is pretty tough, but really
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Um, yeah, there's something about bullet hell games that are really attractive because you can just kind of sit down and get in the zone. It's weird.
Hmm.
It's almost like therapeutic, you know?
Hmm.
And I really like games like that where you can get lost in a trance and you're really just doing the same thing over and over again, but it's just captivating. One game I noticed a lot and noticed that has that kind of like trans like state when you're playing it is Devil Daggers. I don't know if you've played that.
I have not played it, but I have heard quite a few things about it.
Yeah, it's really good. So I mean, for anyone that hasn't, the idea is just that you're on a platform and there are just like demons and skulls that are like spawning constantly. And it's like a Quake, like it's very in the vein of like Quake, like early Quake. So you're just kind of like bunny hopping around this platform and like shooting these like demons and skulls and stuff, and everything's like timed out. So it's like, all right, at 80 seconds, like the spider spawns, and then you have to like fight like a giant spider, and then like now like bigger skulls are coming at you, you know. So you like learn the spawn times, and that's kind of like the level design.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I just get lost in like playing a game like that. Like I will play that game for hours, and my eyes will just be like so red and like watering that I just can't look at it anymore. But there's something about that that's like really captivating. Like I love that. I love feeling that way.
The type of game that does that for me is usually, well, the one I can look I'm staring at literally right now is probably either Hyrule Warriors or like, the 2016 Doom.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, Doom does that really well too. I haven't played enough of Hyrule Warriors, but I definitely get that vibe with Doom. It's just kind of like you get in the zone, you know?
Oh, do I ever? Um, so yeah, moving on to the game itself, I was wondering, like, when exactly did you get involved in? When did you first become interested in video games, like just generally, like recreationally?
Um, so when I was younger, I think I got like a Game Boy Pocket for either my birthday or Christmas or something. I think the first game I played on that was Pac-Man, but I don't think that's my first game. I mean, that was like when it all started, you know, then we got like an N64 and we started playing like Mario Kart. And I think then I was like, okay, this is great. I want to play more of this. But I definitely played PC games before then, I'm pretty sure. I think I played Doom when I was really young and I didn't really understand like the controls or, you know, I wasn't very good at it, but I was like super young and like watching my older brother play Doom or something. And I think that was like my first introduction to video games.
Yeah. And from the time of your childhood to now, has gaming always been like a constant, or has it been more of like an on-off thing, depending on what happens in life?
Yeah. It's definitely been a constant. There was like probably a good year where I definitely didn't play as many games as I would have liked,
Hmm.
just because I was busy with like, you know, school and stuff. And honestly, now I don't play nearly as many games as I would want to, just because of work. And, you know, I'm working on a game now, so it's like, oh, I could play like a new Spider-Man or something, but then I could also just work on my game and feel more productive about what I'm doing. Which sucks because I love playing games and I have such a big backlog of games I want to play.
I know how that can be.
It's impossible.
So, like, You mentioned a bit before about like playing like the first Dooms, but no, other than that, like when you were growing up, was what other types of games like would you say like got their hooks in you?
So I think the first game that really, because I played like a bunch of games before this, but the first game that really like, I don't know, I guess hooked me, like you said, was probably Ocarina of Time for N64.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Right.
something just about like, I don't know, just everything about Zelda is just like, oh, this is so good. You're like a, you know, little kid. You literally start off in a forest with nothing, and then you get like a sword and a shield, and it's just good stuff from there on. And then I think I also played Link's Awakening on Game Boy when that came out. Or no, I think it was DX because I had a Game Boy Color at that point. Um, yeah, and I
Oh,
love that too.
oh goodness, Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
I had no idea there were handheld Zeldas until like I believe I saw Chugga Conroy playing the first bit of it, and then
Mhm.
I believe I got it the next day. And I don't want to spoil it since I think everyone should, everyone who's interested should play that on their own. But goodness me,
Absolutely.
it's stuck with me.
Yeah, that's a really good one. They did wonders with that game. Uh, and then I also was super into what's it like Oracle and
The Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of
yeah,
Ages.
yeah, those two are really good. I was a huge fan of those. Um, yeah, something about the Zelda series, it's just like a really good way to, I don't know, maybe not for everybody, but for me, it was just like, this is what I want. Like, this is exactly it. I was like really into, medieval knights in armor with swords and like fantasy and stuff. So it was perfect. And that's exactly what I wanted as a kid. So then, like, you can tell, like, if you look at, like, I went home recently to visit my family and, like, I was looking at old, like, drawings that I had as a kid. And you could tell, like, when I played Zelda for the first time, like, from there on, all, like, my drawings were just of, like, people with swords and shields fighting, like, dragons and, like, monsters and stuff. It's like, yep, that's when it happened. I played Zelda and then everything changed.
Yep. Okay, good. My computer crashed for a minute there. Just
Uh,
again, didn't none of you saw that. So as someone who doesn't know anything about, so I'm just based on my extremely limited knowledge about how video game conventions of any kind work. I'm assuming that you submitted Super Chrome to like get a spot on like the digital game section of Boston Fig Fest.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That was pretty tough. Um, it was really hard to find a category that I felt it fit.
Hmm.
And they have a bunch of categories, but and one of them is like, I mean, like I think Supercom has a pretty interesting and unique aesthetic, but I don't think it's in any way like game breaking. It's kind of just looks like vector graphics or something.
Hmm.
So I was like kind of torn, like, oh, like this isn't really anything like super unique or anything. Um, so I submitted for the compelling gameplay mechanics. And I was actually really shocked when they accepted me because I wasn't expecting to get in because I didn't. I guess maybe it's because I made the game. I don't really feel like it's that unique.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've like spent the last year looking at it, so I'm like, oh, this isn't very good. But they accepted it, and I was like really shocked. Like, oh wow, like somebody thinks this is good enough to be in a digital showcase. Like that's really awesome. Yeah, yeah. Making the video for that was tough because it's kind of like you need to amp yourself up, almost like sell your game to somebody. But for me, like I'm a programmer. I'm not good at marketing or sales. I don't know how to sell my game. I just know how to program it and make it look all right. So it was definitely a struggle for me, but I think it's good because I got out of my comfort zone a little bit, and I actually got to go to Boston Fig, which is really cool because I wasn't expecting that at all.
But man, telling gameplay. I remember when I first spotted your booth, quite a few people were singing the praises of the little dash mechanic you have because in a lot of those types of top-down spaceshipy type style shooters, you really don't have like huge variety of options in
Mhm.
terms of moving around. But with that, you're able to actually make the most out of the space you have while trying that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, I think a big part of that. So I was actually the so the week PAX happened last year. There was a play crafting demo night that I wanted to bring my game to.
Hmm.
Um, and so I was like getting it ready and stuff. And then a night before, I had the idea like, oh man, like I think I was actually playing Enter the Gungeon or something. And I love the dodge roll in that game. Like it feels so good because you can get yourself out of any bad position, you know. You kind of it like gives makes the game fair almost, you know. It's like, oh, like here's like an intensely hard boss, but like you've got this cool roll you can use to get out. So like I don't know. It just makes me feel like I have so much more control. So then I tried like last minute, like I 2 nights before the demo night, I was like, all right, well, so just see where this goes. Let me just try and throw it in. And I spent like probably like a good like 20 hours just getting that thing to work. um, yeah, I did not get any sleep and I showed up to that demo night like exhausted. I'm actually surprised that it worked at all for that. But then I just kept it in and it worked really well because it's not like the screen isn't, it's horizontal and not vertical. So that gives you more space left and right to move. And I think the dash actually kind of complements that because if it was like a vertical screen, dashing left and right, might feel a little cramped. And that's how most of like bullet hell games are, is that they're vertical positioned and like, you just kind of dodge from there. So I don't know. Yeah, I think the dash mechanic still needs some work in some ways, but I'm really happy with the response. People seem to enjoy it. I think it's definitely
Hmm.
changed the way that I've been designing enemies in the game and like bullet patterns. Um, yeah, it's just nice being able to, cross the screen this, really quickly because you have this cool dash. So yeah, I was happy with the response from that.
All right, so it's like based on the current rate of you working on Super Chrome, like on a day-to-day basis. Do you have like
Hmm.
a rough guesstimate as to when it'll like be ready for like general purchase?
So I'm hoping I told people at the show it would be ready like February, March, but now I'm thinking probably closer to April or May. Um, but that's not for a full release. That's just for like an early access type deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much just like we want to. Well, I say we, but it's only me and a few other people that are helping with odd bits here and there. But I want to get the mode that we had at Boston Fig, the arcade mode, just like really polished up, really just like you know good to go with a bunch of bosses, and then some new enemies and new abilities, and then put it up for early access and then slowly iterate on top of that until, the story mode's done and then release the story mode with 1.0. So yeah, I think early next year, middle next year is like the early access date right now. And then a full release maybe at the end of 2019. That's pretty, I don't know, that's pretty optimistic. It might be closer to like beginning of 2020. It's weird to say.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll be worth the wait when it does come out, whenever that may be.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope so. And on top of all of that, I'm also working on so this is Super Chrome, right? So I'm working on a game just called Chrome right now. It's kind of
Hmm.
like a Game Boy spin-off of it, but it's more like Galaga. There's no warp dash or anything like that. It's just like bullets and shooting. I posted a few GIFs to my Twitter account, but I haven't finished it up or anything yet. But I want to release that just as like a fun little thing on the side, just to get people hyped or generate interest or whatever.
Okay. So, yeah, it's time for my favorite question, which every guest instantly understands and no one is ever confused by in any way, shape, or form. And if they say otherwise, it's a liar. So, Josh, in your opinion, as a player and a developer of video games, is video games?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and there you go.
Yeah, I get it. I get what you mean.
So, yeah, another question I like to throw at my guests sometimes. Who's like grown up with games and has experienced them recreationally and is also like working on one right now in a professional capacity. What is it about video games that's like, why do you think could be one of the reasons why video games have become, so crazy popular, like all over the world? Like, why do you think this particular entertainment medium has had such an impact on people, like pretty much since its inception?
It's a good question. Um, I don't know. I think for me, it's like growing up, it was like a way to escape, kind of. Probably not the best answer, but like, it's just kind of a way to forget about like boring life or like, school or work or whatever, whatever stress you may have going on. It's like a good way to like cool off. Uh, and I mean, there's more to that, but that's mainly how it's been for me. I mean, like, there's also like, competitive games like esports are crazy popular. Uh, and I totally get that. I can get really competitive with games, but I think mainly, yeah, for me, it's just like getting away from it all for a little bit and just playing something is it's so therapeutic and like it just, alleviates so much stress I have. So I would say that.
Yep, and it seems like as good a note as any to end this particular episode of the Pumpkin Coptercast. I would like to thank Josh, maker of Super Chrome, for joining me and discussing what his game is going to be about. If any of the negative 12 people who are watching this video are interested, there'll be a link to the Super Chrome website in the description so you can check it out yourself.
Awesome.
And, yep, this is
Cool.
um oh yeah, is there anything else you want to plug before we sign off?
Uh, just so you can follow me on Twitter if you want. And I'm always posting stuff about the game there. My Twitter handle is stumpheadjosh. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, Tyler. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And yep, this has been the Pumpkin Copter Cast, a good old podcast about video games, and we hope to see you again. Bye.
See ya.